Good evening. I'd like to call to order the April 24th, 2024 City of Calabasas regularly scheduled council meeting. I am joined by Mayor Pro Tem Kraut, council members Albrecht, Bazagian, and Shapiro, as well as our city staff. If you would like to provide public comment, please complete a speaker card and give it to our city clerk. For items not on the agenda, please wait for my announcement for oral communication public comment. When you are called to speak, please state your name and your city of residence. You will be allowed 3 minutes to address the City Council regarding any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Council. The Pledge of Allegiance will be led tonight by our Director of Public Safety and Emergency Preparedness, Michael Dyer.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We met in closed session prior to the meeting. Does the city attorney have anything to report out?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The City Council met in closed session to consider 2 items. First, conference with the real property negotiator regarding 27040 Malibu Hills Road, Calabasas. Direction was provided to staff and council and no reportable action was taken. The council also met without the Mayor Pro Tem, who was recused, regarding 1 item of anticipated litigation related to facts and circumstances that may result in litigation, but which the city believes are not yet known to potential plaintiff or plaintiffs. There, the council provided direction to staff and council and took no reportable action. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're going to start our meeting tonight with a proclamation honoring May as Jewish American Heritage Month and denouncing anti-Semitism, which could not be taking place on a more timely night as we continue to watch the events unfold today at college campuses across this country. Our proclamation reads, whereas communities at large recognize the enduring faith, perseverance, and resilience of the Jewish people and uplift the many contributions Jewish Americans make to enrich American culture, politics, civil society, and countless other areas, and whereas for thousands of years, members of our Jewish communities have sustained strong cultural identities and traditions despite persecution, enslavement, forced segregation, and the horrors of the Holocaust. And whereas the history has led many Jewish Americans to find common cause with the civil rights movement, and Jewish Americans have continued their strong support for liberty and human dignity, thus uniting an end to discrimination in voting, employment, and public accommodation, while also supporting equality for women, farm workers, the disabled, and the LGBTQ plus Americans. And whereas Jewish Americans, in the face of unspeakable discrimination and adversity, have fought tirelessly to realize the promise of the nation's freedom and continue to teach us empathy and compassion inspired by their beliefs and history. And whereas acts of anti-Semitism, hate crimes, targeted violence, and acts of harassment, including online abuse, have increased in recent years. It's actually now at about 400% of an increase since October 7th. In response, the Biden-Harris administration launched the first U.S. national strategy to counter anti-Semitism this year. And whereas through education and awareness, students in their communities are taught and encouraged to think critically about their own roles and responsibilities to stand up against hate. Such education is supported through the Never Again Education Act, authorizing the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum to develop and disseminate resources that promote understanding about how and why the Holocaust happened. And whereas California is home to the 2nd largest Jewish population in the nation, and now therefore the City Council of the City of Calabasas does hereby proclaim May 2024 to be Jewish American Heritage Month, and we denounce anti-Semitism and all acts of hate. Do any of my colleagues have comments? David?
Thank you, and thank you for bringing that forward. This council stood steadfast against any type of hate. This is nothing new that we have stood up here and spoken out as leaders of our community against any kind of hate, regardless of religion, race, ethnic origin, anything. It doesn't matter. Calabasas has long since stood for being no place for hate. And this is wonderful that we are celebrating Jewish American Heritage Month and also moving forward and speaking out yet again, unfortunately, against anti-Semitism and the growing acts, as you mentioned, of anti-Semitism we're seeing, especially on our college campuses. I feel terrible for those students at the East Coast schools we see on the news every day, and certainly today is in the West Coast. It's not unique. USC was closed today for additional acts, and I do feel for those students and those kids who should be able to go to universities, should be able to go to schools. We want them to do better and become better citizens in the world and not be afraid to go to their classes and support. But thank you for doing this.
Thank you. Peter, and then I'll go.
Yes, thank you. I do appreciate that we are recognizing Jewish American Heritage Month and denouncing anti-Semitism and all forms of hate. We've said it many times up here, there's no place for hate in Calabasas. Anti-Semitism often can escalate into violence, but it also shows up in many other forms too. So, I want to remind us, it's our job to guard against anti-Semitism and all forms of hate. Even the smallest comment that goes unrebuked can fester and can cause hurt among many people, and it's our job to not allow that here in Calabasas. We must never allow that thinking to become normal. We can't be silent. We can't be complacent on that. I too am heartbroken over the scene unfolding at USC this evening. The free speech is one of the things that's enshrined in our Constitution, and it's essential that we keep that. Unfortunately, hate speech is also protected unless it triggers one of those fighting words or incites a crime or something to that nature. But I'd love to see a world where we don't even have to get there. I'd love to see a world where we're tolerant of each other and embracing each other's humanity and understanding, and I'd love to see that start right here in Calabasas.
Thank you. Ed?
Thank you, both councilmen, for beautiful remarks. Mayor, it's hard to add to that, but it's also hard to believe that we're at this point that we have to talk about being against violence and anti-Semitism. It's sad. It just seems that over so many years, we haven't learned very much. How we can be resolved to fix this, it may, I hope not take a generation for many of us to remember the Vietnam War and protested during that war. It was very, very violent and very passionate. Anti-Semitism or hate for any group, whoever they are, is sad. I wish we could have a dialogue and promote some type of peace over this. And hopefully, God willing, the Middle East will have solutions and we'll be back on our way to healing. So, thank you.
Thank you. James?
Yes, a lot has been said up here, so I'll keep my comments relatively brief. As has been said, it's one thing to have free speech and to allow different points of view, and we expect that to be in our society and at college campuses. It is quite another to see what has unfolded, the harassment, intimidation, criminal acts, threats, hatred that has gone into our institutions of higher learning. It's appalling. As someone who attended USC and comes from a family that attended USC, I am truly saddened to see that go down on the campus today. I'm also very sad to see it all over the country. It must not be tolerated, it must be denounced, and it must be called out for the hatred that it is. Hopefully, order will be restored and we can return to some kind of normalcy, but to think that there are this many people participating in it. I know it's a minority of the population, but still, it is far too many, and it's being tolerated and even encouraged, sadly, at some of these universities. And so I'm glad that the council's speaking out, and I'm glad to participate in commemorating this month. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for my colleagues' comments. I just wanted to add that I'm proud that Calabasas stands against all forms of hate and that we're able to speak out tonight. I mean, it's really mind-blowing to me that at Columbia University, Jewish students were told to go home because it's not safe for them. At schools are deciding to go hybrid instead of actually addressing the problem. So instead of taking things head-on, people are really ignoring the situation, and we're seeing it escalate to ways that are hard to imagine. So even though we're a small community and this resolution will not do much, it's us saying that this is our values in our community, and I think that's one reason that we have not seen anti-Semitism in our community since October 7th. We've done a really good job of being tolerant of all different types of people and beliefs as long as this council has been working together. So I'm proud of the work we're doing, and there are 2 people here that are going to accept this proclamation. I'll go to the person who's in person first, and that's Miss Esther Ravid on behalf of the Israeli American Civic Action. If you just want to come to, do you want to speak or, okay. If you could just introduce yourself and your city.
Hello, hi. My name's Esther, and I live in Woodland Hills. I just wanted to express my gratitude to Mayor Weintraub and the esteemed members of the City Council for their timely proclamation recognizing the importance of denouncing anti-Semitism. It's disheartening to see a rise in anti-Semitic incidents across the country, including here in Los Angeles, reaching levels not seen since World War II. This is particularly concerning for those of us with young children, as we strive to create a more inclusive and accepting society. Acknowledging and celebrating Jewish American heritage is crucial in the fight against anti-Jewish hate. As we approach Jewish American Heritage Month next month, it is an opportunity for everyone to pause and educate themselves on the many aspects of Jewish life and identity. As a proud Israeli American mother of 3 children attending school locally, I'm grateful for the recognition of our heritage by the city of Calabasas. This acknowledgement means a great deal to the Jewish community, and we sincerely thank the council for their support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And next I have Lisa Katz on behalf of the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, who is joining us via Zoom.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Lisa.
I'm Lisa Katz, the Chief Government Affairs Officer of the Combat Anti-Semitism Movement, and I'm also a former mayor here in New York. But I have to say, after hearing all of you speak tonight, I'm kind of ready to get on a plane and move from New York to Calabasas. So I want to thank you. You know, somebody just said that adopting this proclamation won't do much, but I beg to differ with you, because I think that all of us need to stand up just as you have done tonight and to say that hate has no home in our towns. And you doing that and taking this step and adopting this proclamation tonight does that. And part of what I get to do every day is to work with mayors and city councils to make sure that we can stop anti-Semitism where it lives in our homes. And you are doing that today, and that takes leadership and it takes bravery, and I commend you all for doing that. And I really just want to thank you for proclaiming May 2024 as Jewish American Heritage Month in Calabasas, particularly in light of the concerning rise in anti-Semitism, both nationally and globally, obviously compounded by the events of October 7th. And really, this meaningful gesture that you are taking tonight not only acknowledges the invaluable contributions of Jewish Americans to our nation, but also serves as a powerful statement by all of you against hate and discrimination. And you have clearly demonstrated your commitment to fostering inclusivity, celebrating diversity and demanding mutual respect of all of your residents in Calabasas. And so I commend you for that. I thank you for that. And I thank you for your very strong leadership. And I believe that your actions will have an impact and that they reflect the true spirit not only of Calabasas, but of our nation, and inspire hope for a brighter and more harmonious future. So thank you again for adopting this proclamation.
And thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Annalise, I'll give this back to you. We are going to postpone our fire department update because Chief Smith is unable to attend tonight's meeting. So I'm going to move ahead to our next presentation by Michael Stahl and Brian Cameron regarding emergency preparedness in Calabasas, otherwise known as EPIC, to discuss the mobile app.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Weintraub, Mayor Pro Tem Kraut, City Council members, city staff. My name is Brian Cameron. I've been a Calabasas resident since last century, actually. And 3 years ago, we created Emergency Preparedness in Calabasas as an outreach and education forum. It was actually reasonably easy because Calabasas has a lot of very talented, creative people who care about the city deeply. I'm up here only to introduce one of those individuals, Michael Stahl, who's been a longtime friend and neighbor, to talk about one of our latest features that we have added to the EPIC platform that I think I'm excited about, and I think hopefully you'll be as well. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Stahl. I have been a Calabasas resident for 33 years. I am a member of EPIC. Segue, I don't know how this happened, but my mother is a Holocaust survivor, still alive. So, kind of works that way. Oh. Anyway, so I have a very short time. You've seen my presentation. I think you have it in front of me, so I'm just going to go through it, give you the highlights of this. I want to thank, first of all, when you gave us the seed money, EPIC, years ago, it was entrusted to us to do something with it. And hopefully you'll see that sometimes those seeds actually sprout some fruit. I also want to thank, we've had access to your staff who have worked collaboratively, but most of all, and I don't think anybody here can appreciate more than we do, is Chief Dyer, who has been extraordinarily helpful and guiding to that. So we're lucky to have him. So with that, I'm done sucking up to him, so we're done. Next slide. Oh, I got to do it. Sorry. Never mind. So EPIC has a few offerings right now. We have home hardening that will go out to people's homes and make sure that they are as protective as possible. We have another program called ECHO, which is a communication in the event of emergencies, and it's the distributing of information when that communications network has been either shut down or whatever the emergency is. So now we're going to introduce this app, and the app is free. It is the newest offering that is working with Calabasas, not in lieu of. We work with your city. You have a tapestry of offerings. We're working with that, and that's that collaboration that we're talked about. We'd like to call this a public-private partnership. That's how we view it. We just are part of helpful hand where we can fit in. With that said, when I designed this thing, I had to work on certain things that I thought were principles. And the first principle was that when you're in CERT training, you do the most good for the most number of people. So that's what we try to do, get the most amount of information to the most number of people, number one. Number two, in the city of LA City has put out a little information. And one of the things that they said is that neighbors, not first responders, are to be the first will address 90% of other neighbors' problems, not first responders. So that means we have to empower our neighbors. Number 3, Lucy Jones sat here on this podium about 5 years ago. I think Councilman Shapiro was the one who facilitated that, if I'm not. And I sat right here and I listened to her intently. She is the world's authority. And she said, paraphrasing, good news for Calabasas, we don't have a lot of faults here. Bad news is our first responders are probably going to be diverted other place. So what does that mean? That means that we have to empower our neighbors, just like I said before. We've got to get that empowerment. Number 4 is that Dr. Jones also said that more damage is done from fires than from earthquake itself. And she brought up Christchurch at the time and things like that. And the other guiding principle is the facts are that 90% of injuries that happen post-earthquake happen within the first few hours. So those are kind of what, and then I worked backwards from there. So the biggest problem with emergency preparedness is apathy. The second biggest problem is we are building certain content and information on the single point of failure. We have web applications, and all. There is not going to be any electricity, there's going to be no mobile services, there's going to be no internet. So with the app, all of the information eliminates that single point of failure. It will be available on your phone, resident there, no matter the connectivity. The design goals are very challenging here because, number 1, you have to tell people what to do before, during, and after an event, either wildfire and or earthquakes. Challenging that is, number 1, is the app is not a really good place to teach people because it's not a linear presentation. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, Chapter 3, you can't do that on an app. Number 2, or the other challenging part is it's a very small window. You only get to read this much. No one's going to read a 1,000-page essay on that. It has to be short and concise. The number 3 challenge is that if you have a loss of connectivity and you don't have electricity, your app is going to, if you read a lot on it, you're going to drain the battery, which is something that might not be a renewable asset. So you don't want to have people in there reading forever. Also, you don't want to have people have said, well, why don't you put videos on there? Well, the videos won't play, number 1, and number 2, if I packed it full of videos, the memory inside of your phone will be very large. And 2 years from now, when people are looking through their phone going, okay, I don't have any more memory, let's just get rid of that because it's a big chunk. So those are things that we took into account when we designed this thing. So why an app? Why not a print version? Why not a print? City Calabasas has put out other information. Those are all, they're not mutually exclusive. I would advocate the app because everybody has a phone with them. It's always with them. It's right here. And the nice thing is the advocacy is to take pictures of your house so you have it there as proof of what's going, should you have to replace it. You can have all your documents and now you can have what to do all in one place. Does it mean that the web is not valuable? No, there's valuable information. It is just one part of it. It is not mutually exclusive. There's 2 kinds of levels of information that we offer on the app. One is a simple list, what to do. A, B, C, just goes through there. If you want to go deeper, there's a details button that gets you to the second level of details. And those things will guide people on what's the number 1 injury following the Northridge earthquake. Cuts to the bottom of their feet. People will get up, run around and they get cuts to the bottom of the feet. Well, if you have a cut to the bottom of the feet, there's not going to be emergency room that's going to take you. 1, because they're going to have much bigger injuries. So if we can prevent that, do you drink pool water? Can you use candles? Do you always turn off the gas? These are the things that we address in those details. And there's a how-to to do that. In the unique things that I think are unique about the app, gosh, I wish I could sleep better. We provide a lot of the how-to, literally, how to open your garage door. Step 1, find the garage. Step 2, The little red handle looks like this. Those are the detail that we go down to so that people step by step by step. There's many people who don't know what their gas meter looks like, where to locate it at. Now, it would be really nice if they did it beforehand, but the whole goal is not to just hope that people read this beforehand, but actually have something in their hand during after events. Finally, or one of the other unique aspects is we have checklists. So the checklists, there are 8 different checklists, and you can make your own personal ones. So when you're in Home Depot, if you want to fill it out, you just check it there and it keeps it for you. So that it's organized so that there's PEC checklists and there's work checklists and there's auto checklists and family plans so that everybody can hopefully make it tailored for what their specific needs are. Finally, I would tell you, again, stressing, we look at this as a private-public partnership. We're not asking you for anything other than to help us promote this. That's it. We'll always hopefully have access to staff, and especially Chief Dyer, because I think it really does work. It is very easy on the app. If you see there, the button at the bottom of the app has a little share. All you do is you push that, and it comes up, and you push that, and you can text it to any person you want to. So we're calling this the Share If You Care program. So it is really, it's super easy. And somebody will say, well, my wife has it, I don't. That's not good. You both have to have it. Because if one's at work and one's at home and everybody has it. I would advocate that even kids of certain age should have that as well. So, 7 minutes. I promised I'd be done. I am done. Questions, comments, or criticisms?
Ed, we'll go this way.
Thank you very much. I'm excited about the app. We have an app for Calabasas. It's fantastic. It works great. I'm sure this will as well. But I'm just curious, is there anything in this app in an emergency that's real time, or is it more of a dialogue of do's and don'ts?
So real time, I defer to the city. One of the things that we will not do is not broadcast anything that is not vetted through the EOC and or the PIO, period. The app does have the ability to push information, but that assumes there's connectivity. I can see us, for the people that opt into this, to send out a push notification, for example, on the first red flag warning that we have. Send out a push notification. This might be a good time to check your gutters and to clean that. But to answer your specifically, no real time will be pushed out through the app or through Epic, as I understand it, that is not cleared by the city, the EOC, and the PIO.
So it's basically a to-do list, a very sophisticated to-do list.
It's my baby. I don't
In a
think
good
it's that
way. I don't
ugly.
mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's useful. I mean, I would like to know a little bit more about my gas valve and how to handle that. I forget how to do it. I look forward to using this.
I appreciate that. I think that the thing that the hole that is being filled is not, it's dynamic. You can change it instantaneously. I can update it, and it's really a how-to. I have no illusions that people are going to read this beforehand, but hopefully after an event they'll say, you know what, I remember, there is something there, and that might help somebody. Because I told you, the emergency, we're trying to lessen the burden on the city, the state, and the federal agencies. And conventional thought is that it's going to take 5 to 7 days before services may return back to normal, depending on the severity of the earthquake and or fire.
Thank you.
Does the app have a name?
It's Epic. Calabasas is in the App Store. Epic Calabasas.
Okay, David?
Thank you, Michael, and everyone here from Epic. You have quite a few people. This is nothing new. You've been working with your community, with your neighbors, and with the city for at least a dozen years. I know that. I know that this concept in its infancy stage was something you tried to bring, and now, thank goodness, we are we're able to see this. I mean, I just was able to
Well,
actually download something which is almost
You're
impossible.
correct that I had done this years ago, but to be honest, without the seed money that you guys gave us, I don't think that would have been a reality. It's nice to me, you know, that's where I think this public-private partnership has worked out. It's proof of concept.
And it's great, especially when you talk about neighbor, helping neighbor, community, being able to know or where to look for something if you need to turn off a gas valve. If you don't, the garage, I know where it is. I may not know how to open the door, but everything in here is going to be helpful, and hopefully we don't need it, but in the event of wildfires, anything of that nature, it's something that's going to help, and hopefully help save lives, save injury, provide people the opportunity to prepare and be better prepared. And so thank you, and thank everybody for your efforts.
Peter?
I just got to say thank you, and this is brilliant. And for anybody in the audience who's thinking, it's just an app, what's so brilliant about it? I want to go back to a conversation I had with Brian about 3 years ago. And Brian was telling me about the app that Epic was going to be working on and how it was going to be so great. And I said, we don't need it. The city of Calabasas has already put out this emergency handbook that explains everything about how to turn off your gas valve and everything. And Brian said to me, do you know where it is? And it might be in the shed next to my first aid kit, or it might be in that cabinet under where we charge the phones with all the other papers, unless my wife moved it, in which case it might be in the desk, but I'm really not sure. And he said, do you got a phone? And I said, yeah. How often are you without your phone? It's very rarely more than 3 feet away from me. And so he said, with the app, you'll have all that information here. And I said, but what about when there's no internet service? And he said, but the app's going to store the information in your phone, so it's available in your pocket at the moment that you need it. And that's when it hit me what a brilliant idea this app was. Because unfortunately, I have to travel occasionally for my day job. And when something goes wrong at the house and my wife is home alone, I'm usually in Hawaii. And she's not very happy with me. So this gives me a tool that I can get all of that information into her hands so that she's capable of handling these emergencies when I'm out of town as well. So many great things about this app, and I just want to say thank you, and hopefully for those listening out here to our city council meeting, I've shed a little bit of light on how brilliant this app is and how necessary it is to have on your phone. Thanks.
James?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Michael, for the presentation. I appreciate it. I don't have anything else to add.
Just as a closing, let me just say that the way I designed this was for the lowest common denominator. It doesn't.
That's good.
No, it really is, because I have people who have never, no mechanical, and they said, well, wait a minute, you know, which way do I turn the knob? Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So I am trying not, it's easy for me, I can walk up and do all that stuff, but it was trying to convey that in a manner that is to everybody. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. I just wanted to say thank you. I downloaded this app a while ago when Brian and I were having a conversation, and I loved it instantly. It is meant for someone like me who literally needs the basics on how to turn off the gas meter and all the things I worry about. Everything's in here, even a checklist for your pets, your family plan. It's really so fabulous, and the more people in our community that download this, the better. And you've far exceeded our expectations with the seed funding, the seed money. Epix really has done an incredible job and has such a positive reputation in the community, and this app is really such a valuable tool.
Again, let me just end on this. The things that you're seeing, part of it was Chief Dyer, who I don't know a lot about fire. He's a fire chief.
He knows how much we love him, so.
And so one of the things he talked about was mudslides in Santa Barbara. And through some of the stuff he gave me, it then made its way into this. And again, facilitating this public-private partnership. So thank you all.
And we will promote this and get this out to as many residents as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Now we are going to have oh wait, let's see. Are there any speaker cards on this item? Okay, then we are going to move ahead to a presentation by Jeff Kernan, Regional Public Affairs Manager of the LA County Division for the League of California Cities, and he's going to be discussing the California Business Roundtable Initiative. Jeff, thank you for joining us tonight.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and City staff. Thank you for having me tonight. I'm Jeff Kiernan, your Regional Public Affairs Manager for the League of California Cities, and I'm just here to make a brief presentation about what we're calling the Taxpayer Deception Act, which is a ballot measure that will be on the ballot in November of this year. There we go. It is often said you can tell a lot about a political issue by looking at who is funding the campaign. And the main proponent of the so-called Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act is the California Business Roundtable, or the CBRT as it's known. This group represents the largest and wealthiest corporations, including in California, including developers, oil companies, insurance, banks, tobacco, and drug companies. At the end of 2023, their coalition reported more than $17 million in their campaign account. And these corporations are, there we go, these corporations are expected to write big checks in the future to help pass this measure. Now, the League of California Cities, we're not going to be able to compete with their dollars one-on-one, but we are asking our membership and cities like you to stand with us, with local control, and with these other cities in opposing this measure. Where am I aiming this? There we go. Contrary to what proponents may say, this measure is not in the interest of taxpayers, nor does it promote accountability and transparency. Instead, this measure is a bait-and-switch tax trick that would benefit corporations at the expense of everyday taxpayers and local public services. This measure implements significant new restrictions on local governments, tax and fee authority, and attacks voters' rights by increasing the thresholds to pass voter-proposed special taxes to 2/3 vote. All this is to say that should this measure pass, it would reduce state and local funding by billions of dollars annually, open the door to lawsuits against cities, and provide new opportunities for businesses or residents to block revenue-raising measures through the courts. This resulting reduction in revenues and an increased chance of lawsuits will lead to reductions in services to law enforcement, parks, libraries, affordable housing, homelessness protection, and everything we hold dear in our local cities. Did I mention this is also retroactive? Where am I going? Oh.
That's correct.
No, there we go. That's right. This measure is also retroactive to January 1st, 2022, which means that any revenue measure that does not comply with these very nuanced rules are void unless reenacted within 1 year in a costly special election. This means that $2 billion in annual funding already approved by voters would need to be rerun at significant cost to local governments just to avoid these funds from being automatically repealed. This measure also overturns the Upland decision by the Supreme Court that special taxes put on the ballot by voters would now require a 2/3 vote instead of a simple majority. This measure also makes it more difficult for cities to collect fees or services. Moving forward, all fees would need to be approved by 2/3 of the legislative body and may not exceed the actual cost of providing the service. Previously, fees and charges imposed by local and state governments could be market-based, but this measure would require fees to be subject to a new and undefined reasonableness test that requires the actual costs to be, quote, the minimum amount necessary. This alone could decimate local services and bring on a slew of legal challenges. What's a minimum amount necessary for your community's essential services? What's the minimum amount necessary to fill a pothole, pick up your trash, or to support your public safety response times? This slide here shows the examples of some of the fees and charges that are impacted by this ballot measure. Now keep in mind those definitions as you read the slide that require these fees to be the actual cost and the minimum amount necessary. As you know, local governments adopt fee schedules regularly, often annually. Now, after being approved by 2/3 of the council, they would then also have to be approved by the voters, causing delay and likely more litigation. Plus, these new rules wouldn't just leave room for cities to discount fees either. So you could no longer decide to give the local scout troop or your local nonprofit the use of a community room for a discount. Now, this measure doesn't just impact you here at the local government. The state is pulled in as well. If you think your voter pamphlet is long now, wait until you're voting on all of the local fees and taxes passed at the state level. The legislature would also need a 2/3 vote to update many state fees, and this measure changes the legal standard. The state must prove that a charge is a fee and not a tax. Oops. I hope the city of Calabasas will join Cal Cities, the broad coalition of cities, counties, firefighters, nurses, teachers, unions, environmental groups, and others in opposition to this Taxpayer Deception Act. There we go. Just additionally, the governor and legislature have filed a legal challenge to this measure, calling it not a revision to the Constitution, not just a simple amendment. The state Supreme Court is scheduled to take this up next month on May the 8th. Likewise, the slide also brings up ACA 13, which was passed by the legislature last year and is also going to be on the ballot. This separate proposition would essentially say that if you're seeking to raise a voter threshold for an increase in revenue, then you would also need to pass your ballot measure by that same voter threshold. And yes, this would impact the Taxpayer Deception Act, meaning that if ACA 13 were to pass, then the Taxpayer Deception Act would need to require a 2/3 vote in order to become law. And I think that's, just lastly, if you are interested in finding out information, you can sign up to be a member of the coalition individually. You can go to stoptaxpayerdeceptionact.com to see all the information we have available. We're going to be updating that obviously throughout the campaign. So that's my presentation. I know you have this slated for action later in the agenda. I'm happy to take your questions now or address them at that time if you have any.
I'm actually going to move that agenda item up.
Okay.
So I'm thinking let's do that so then we can get your questions, we can do it all at once, if that works. So I'm going to move agenda item number 6 up. I'm going to take things a little bit out of order. It's the City Council consideration of resolution number 2024-1894, opposing initiative number 21-0042A1, the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act. And who's giving the presentation?
That's me, Mayor.
Okay, I'll turn it to you.
Mayor, I wish to express my appreciation for Jeff and this information that he shared with our community and with the council. This is at the forefront of cities' thoughts and concerns across the state. I don't have any additional information to add than what Jeff's already added, but do want you to know that many of our neighboring cities have already adopted this resolution in opposition. Cities throughout LA County, throughout the state. And Jeff, help me out. What's the number of cities so far that have opposed?
Last I looked, we were at about 230.
Thank you, Jeff. And so this is, again, our request from staff, request from the league to show our support and solidarity for this initiative to oppose the ballot initiative that is being presented.
Great, thank you. Are there any council comments or questions for Kindon or for Jeff? And Jeff, we really appreciate you being here tonight.
Happy to.
I'll turn to James first.
I'm on the league state board and I was past president of the LA County division. I'm on the League State Board, was past president of the county division. And I have a couple corrections. This isn't, I think this was going to be on our agenda long ago, and there have been some updates. So first of all, whenever it says the Taxpayer Protection and Government Accountability Act, I would want to amend that to say misleadingly entitled that by its proponents, because that's not our title. That's not even a title, as Jeff, as far as I know, the state has not approved the title yet, correct?
I believe the title, well, the title may, to be honest, I don't know.
I don't think the state has approved a title. That's a title that they submitted.
Yeah.
It may not wind up that way.
The Secretary of State has not yet issued the ballot title. They're pending the lawsuit, so that's not yet been titled by the state. So you're right.
Under be it further resolved, because this is an older version, the slogan has changed. It's not stop the corporate tax trick, it's stop the Taxpayer Deception Act. So that should be stricken and then added. Sorry for my allergies. And other than that, I would just encourage you to support this, not only as a council, which I hope you vote for tonight, but also individually, you can sign up to endorse the no side, which I already have done. I think in looking at this, this would have probably one of the most devastating effects on municipal revenues of anything I've seen in a long, long time. This is a wide-ranging thing that will dry up potential sources of income. It's undemocratic. It takes powers away from the voters. And I think that it's clearly designed by businesses and developers to just simply avoid paying their fair share of things in cities where they do business. So I would encourage a vote in favor of the resolution, which would be opposed to the Taxpayer Deception Act.
Peter?
Yeah, I would echo what's been said already. I have already signed up individually on the people opposing this measure, and would encourage our council to take a position as well opposing this. I think the scariest thing for me here is the classification of fees and the legal justification we would have to go through to collect fees. It's hard enough here as a city to account for money, and you know, we have issues already where fees for certain services here in the city utilize disproportionate amounts of time of our city attorney and other areas where we really can't recover costs. And all of these gray areas that we struggle with today will be multiplied tenfold with the passage of this. So I'm strongly opposed to it.
Thank you. David?
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff, for being here and bringing this forward. I know it's been on our agenda a while ago, and thank you, James and Peter, for your comments. I can also indicate I've already signed on to the no, which is the support that our position you're asking us to take tonight, and I also support moving forward with the action recommended.
Ed?
Thank you, Jeff, and for all your hard work, not just on this, but whenever I see you, you are the epitome of helping small business, small government. Relentless. You're a watchdog for us. We couldn't ask for a better person to do that. This particular item, it's a deception. It's callous disregard for what municipal government does for the communities that it serves. It's sad that it has come to this. It's return on investment. This is really what it's all about. They don't have any regard for what we'd be suffering from and the citizens that we serve. So thank you for all your help. I'm grateful to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm also in support of our city taking a stance on this, and I just did signed the website myself. I thought I had, but I had not. So I've officially shown my opposition to that. But this would really be detrimental to local government, and to the services that we provide to the public. So whatever we can do to get that word out, we definitely need to do that. So thank you for being here. Are there any speaker cards on this item?
No speaker cards.
Okay. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak? I don't see anyone or have any cards. Is there a motion?
I would move the item with my 2 amendments.
Okay. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you, and we'll make those changes. Okay, now we are going to go back to the order. We're going to go to announcements and introductions. I'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Kraut.
Wow, so many things to announce. First of all, I want to congratulate Ana Luz Mendoza, our interim city clerk, for stepping up to her new role here. It's excellent to see her tonight, and thank you very much for what you're doing.
Thank you.
We just recently had a ribbon cutting at Sweet Lady Jane yesterday, so if you're not aware of that, the bakery was closed for the very briefest of moments, and a couple of wise individuals decided to reopen it, and we're really excited to have them here. Great treat, so make sure you stop by and check it out. It's in the courtyard of the Commons, across the street from the Commons Shopping Center. Also wanted to announce that tomorrow we have a ribbon cutting for our swim and tennis center. That'll be at 11 o'clock. The pool has been completely refinished, and it is absolutely beautiful. Please come join us as we cut the ribbon and reopen this to the public.
Thank you. James?
Yes, I did want to say something today, which April 24th, which is the traditional anniversary of the date that Armenians commemorate the Armenian genocide, which occurred between 1915 and 1923, perpetrated by the Ottoman Turkish Empire, in which 2 million Armenians were deported or killed, and eliminating the area where they lived in for over 3,000 years, as long as anyone can remember. And my own ancestors were affected by that, those who were still over there. Most were here, but some were there. And many of my ancestors were killed in that genocide. You know, over the years, the United States and various European countries have expressed their support for genocide resolutions and commemorations, which is very nice and welcome. But just last year, the Azeri Turks invaded an Armenian province, took it over, and expelled more than 100,000 Armenians, leaving the area entirely depopulated, and areas they had lived in antiquity. And really, no one said or did anything. I don't expect, that there was probably not a whole lot that could be done, but it's one thing to make commemorative statements and words. It is another thing to follow it up with action and hold people accountable. I feel that one of these acts, any of these acts, feeds upon other acts, and that's why we are seeing all over the world this strife where not enough people are speaking out and taking an interest in this. And it's very sad to me on a personal level. So today, April 24th, is the annual day where we commemorate a horrible act in history that has never been acknowledged by Turkey or any of the perpetrators of the offenses. So thank you for giving me that time.
Thank you, James. David?
I'll just say thank you, James, for those words and bringing it up. I also was going to mention, I know we as a council spoke out previously and did denounce the genocide that has occurred and continues to occur everywhere. And we all remember and commemorate the Armenian genocide today as a city, as a city council as well. So thank you for that. I won't talk long. I'll just mention Chamber Bowling event is coming up for the education grants for the education scholarships for the schools, and I'll be joining, I believe, Council Member Ed Albrecht, and I'm not sure who else on the team, to try and see if I can not hurt myself and support the city. Tonight, happy third night. It's the third night of Passover for all who are celebrating. Happy Passover to everyone. It's a celebration, as I mentioned previously, of freedom, the Jews escaping slavery and becoming free, and it's especially poignant tonight that we think about all of us. 201 days there are 133 hostages still unaccounted for and not returned home. So we hope and pray for their freedom as well. On a happy note, congratulations to Calabasas High School Marmani League champion. The boys tennis team won the championship, and they're going on to individual CIF competition as well. Congratulations to CIF Theater Program. They're nominated for the Jerry Herman nominations for a number of individuals. And congratulations on behalf of our city to Lupin Hill, who was ranked today and received honors by the U.S. National News. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Ed?
Thank you. Got a great announcement. I was out of town the past couple days, coming back to Los Angeles, sitting on the runway in New York, and guess what I read? News just broke. Netflix lands new series called Calabasas. Produced by Kim Kardashian, adaptation of a 2001 book called If You Lived Here, You'd Be Famous by Now by Via Belder. So just to make a quickie, it's about a girl who attended Catholic school in the Valley and transferred to CHS, and her struggles, both good and bad. So it hasn't started filming yet, but you'll hear more about it, so I couldn't have been more excited. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was an April Fool's joke, but April Fool's has already passed. Two other quick notes. Community Service Department, which are so active and doing so much, trying to bring services out and fun events to people. There's a photo opportunity at De Anza Park to celebrate mother figures on Saturday, May 11th, 2 p.m. No registration necessary. And lastly, Calabasas Library, our wonderful library, is offering study buddies, tutoring for students up to 8th grade, provided by Advanced Placement and Honor High School students, held by appointment on Zoom Tuesday, May 21st from 4 to 6. Sign up required. And happy Passover to our Jewish families. Thank you.
Thank you. All of the day-to-day announcements have been mentioned, but I just wanted to thank James for mentioning the Armenian Genocide Remembrance Day. It's really important that we talk about it every year, and I was really pleased to see so many local elected officials outside of our community talk about it today, and so many schools were closed, and I think it's sadly so late in life getting the attention that it needs, but the more that we keep talking about it, the better. It was a really heavy day starting thinking about the Armenian genocide and then what's happening at the colleges. So I'm happy to be here tonight where we can talk about these things and pay our respect to all the people that suffered through that and that are suffering now. So,
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we will move on to our oral communication public comment. I do have one speaker card, Mark Levinson. And if there are any other members of the public wishing to speak on non-agenda items, please fill out a speaker card and give it to our city clerk.
Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem and council members, thank you. Mark Levinson, I live in Los Angeles. Just want to mention a couple real things that are happening with the chamber, and then introduce some members of our chamber that have become very, very active within the city. First, as everyone just said, Cal Cup Bowling Tournament is this Friday. Should be a lot of fun. Wish you best of luck. But the major thing is, aside from everybody eating a lot of food, having a good time, we are raising money for scholarships for students. And that's a feel-good event for anybody. Our annual wine event is also coming up. It's going to be here at the Plaza, and the wine event is May 30th. And before that, at the library, for those who are attorneys, on May 1 is Law Day, and we are having a series of attorneys, myself included, David also, James has volunteered as well, to meet with people that just have questions on the law and get some advice, and it's our way of giving back for that. But most important tonight, I'd like to introduce two ladies who have a great new business that's come to Calabasas. They've been members of the chamber for approximately 8 months. Their business is Care Family Circle. Core. I apologize. Okay. They've been members for 8 months. They had an event at the hotel last month. They have another one coming up with athletes who will be in attendance. They've been very active in the community, and they've already joined the Ambassadors Club. So I'll let them speak with the rest of the time.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us here. We really appreciate being noticed as who we are. We are actually Core Family Office. We are very heavy on taxes. We like to help our community, make sure we're helping them mitigate their taxes, and also provide them with succession planning as well. We are hosting an event on May the 17th. It's for the launch of our Tax Family Office, which is a global tax firm that we are launching. We are also having speakers such as Meta World Peace, who will be in attendance. We have other athletes as well. Lavon Idolet, she will be speaking as well. And we have a few other really big names that are going to be attending the event. We would love to have you guys be at the event with us as our guests. I will let her speak now.
I'm considered the better half. No, I'm just kidding. I'm of Neat. Nice to meet you guys. Of course, we are so excited to be a part of the Calabasas Chamber, and it's been a pleasure to not just be an ambassador, but to actually speak about the Chamber. I think we'll be able to add athletes to the Chamber, so we're very excited about that. And about events. In the last about 8 months, this is our second event, and we're already planning our third. And the idea is to bring family offices together closer and to also launch family offices. I know it's a new industry. There's a lot of a hubbub about it, but we're trying to take the mystery out of it, and we're so happy to be here, and hopefully we can talk to each one of you by the end of the night. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing with everything.
Thank you.
Now we're going to move on to consent items. Do any of my colleagues wish to pull any of the items?
Just number 4, briefly.
Yes, 4, please.
I anticipated.
Okay. Comments for number 4?
Oh, Michael McConville, I guess, is coming up.
Just
You know, I appreciate the efforts that have been made by the members of Congress, but there are a couple things about the letter that I had questions about, and I know we talked a little bit before the meeting. First of all, some of the things in the letter are a little bit vague as to goals, not necessarily legislation. So I'd like, in the future, I'd like us to track what actually is being accomplished and how effective it is. But more specifically, in the bill that was proposed by our former Congress member, Ted Lieu, there was a provision in there about notice requirements and hearing requirements before flight patterns were changed. Can you comment on that at all with respect to how this the letter in our packet is framed and what has happened with that?
In regards to Ted Lieu's legislation, you're looking...
Well, just a general, I don't see in here anything specific about, like, Ted Lieu's legislation at some point had some very specific language, like, you know, 2 months before a proposal is introduced into Congress, or a proposal, excuse me, to change the flight patterns, there must be notice to all affected members of the public over the flights, and there must be an opportunity for them to be heard at hearings, this number of hearings. I don't see that in here. So what has happened to that part of the bill?
So I don't know the level of specificity as it relates to hearings in this particular authorization of funding that Congressman Brownlee is proposing, but I'm happy to look into that and get back to you.
Okay, because really the reason I'm asking is because generally speaking, I don't expect legislation to be identical, but I think most of our complaints were that there would be no notice, no opportunity to be heard, and then all of a sudden the flight pattern would change and there'd be a dramatic increase in the frequency and the level of noise such that people didn't have an opportunity to be heard. So I think that I would like, if my colleagues agree, I'd like to make that inquiry of the member of Julia Brownlee's office to ask her what happened to that and whether there are any plans to make more specific requirements, if that's okay. I don't know if we can I know we're just receiving and filing, but I'd like to send something back saying this is one of our concerns that was not addressed in the letter. Because it was previously one of our concerns, it was. That's all.
I'll hear David's comments and then.
Thank you. Just something a little different. I was going to say thank you for your efforts in getting this letter to us and in the packet. What can members of the community do was my question now going forward to support or contact Congresswoman Brownlee's office to assist with their requests, their needs, their issues on this item?
Yes, excellent question, council member. Toward the later bottom half of the letter, the congressman directs them to the LAX Community Roundtable, which they can certainly take part of. They can visit the FAA website, and then lastly, they can actually contact the congresswoman's office.
Great, okay. Back to James's comments.
Can I?
Oh, but David?
I was just going to say, there's nothing stopping us from reaching out to Congressman Liu's office and asking that question, is there, or is it inappropriate because he was our representative and districted out?
Well, that bill died.
Right.
So I don't know, I mean, he's been very amenable to our inquiries, even when he wasn't our Congress member, but I have a feeling that there's a limit to that.
Right. Okay.
So can we just inquire with this additional information?
I'm happy to do that, yes,
Okay.
and follow up and respond.
Anyone have any issues to that?
No, I agree. I think that's the smartest, easiest way to do it. Just have a chat and
Great.
give them a heads up and get their opinion.
Perfect. Is there a motion then to approve consent items 1 through 4?
Madam Mayor, before the council votes on that, we have one technical
Oh, right,
correction.
sorry, you want to change?
Yeah. Item
Item 2.
2, attachment 3, resolution number 2024-1892. Its section 6 regards the CPI inflation adjustment for the stated LLADs. The 3.49% CPI inflation adjustment needs to be corrected to 3.475%, which matches the Wildan engineer's report per the prior resolution.
And could I get a page number for that,
Yes,
please?
that is page 2 of resolution number 2024-1892. I don't have a straight packet page. So item 2 is 3 resos. It's the third of the 3 resos. And the first 2 resos, reso number 1 approves the engineer's report, reso 2 approves the engineer's report for slightly different districts, and then reso 3 is the intent to levy and sets the public hearing. That's the resolution that has the technical correction that needs to be made.
This is,
Item number 2, the resolution's ahead of that. Thank you.
Is there, wait, do you want to wait till you can find the page?
I think I found it.
Okay, is there a motion to approve consent items 1 through 4 with the changes Matt mentioned and the changes James mentioned?
So moved?
Second?
Thank you. Oh, wait, and I realized, but there were no speaker cards or members of the public.
No speaker cards.
Okay, great. Now we will move
Do we have
on.
to vote?
Oh, sorry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Now we will move on to new business, which is adoption of resolution number 2024-1893, stating intent to pursue merger of the Agora Hills Calabasas Community Center's contract with the California Public Employees Retirement System into the City of Calabasas' contract with California Public Employees Retirement System. Ron Allers, our CFO, will make the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight is the first step in a long process to amend our CalPERS contract that we have. This amendment is going to merge the Agora Hills Calabasas Community Center JPA into the City of Calabasas CalPERS plan for retirement. Once this action is done tonight, the JPA is meeting on Thursday night to do a similar action for the merger. We will then send both signed resolutions up to CalPERS. They will then prepare a contract amendment to merge the two plans, and then the city council, hopefully in May and June, we will present a resolution of intention to amend the contract, an ordinance to actually amend the contract, so you will be approving this 3 more times after tonight, just for fun. And this is all following just CalPERS regulations. With that, we will also be producing an actuarial report to actually show the cost of this merger. And this is all part of the discussions between the City of Agoura Hills and the City of Calabasas, dealing with the community center and this unfunded liability of the JPA and past employees. These past employees of the JPA will in effect become just like being a City of Calabasas employee, so that when they retire, they get the benefits, and the City of Calabasas will be paying off on that unfunded liability over time. We'll see what the actuarial report says as to actually how many years we would pay that off. And I'm available to answer any questions. Again, we're going to be approving this multiple times over the next 2 months, and we'll be providing additional detail. I checked today for the actuarial report on the CalPERS website, and it has not yet been loaded. It's supposed to be completed this week, so I will be forwarding that onto council whenever we receive it, so you will have it, and then it'll be in all subsequent reports as the council approves this merger.
And Madam Mayor, if I could add 2 further points, thank you. One is that this is paired with the land transfer. We are anticipating that this city council and the Agoura Hills City Council will be considering a land transfer agreement on the May 8th meetings as the final language is sorted out between now and then. That is what this is paired with. This is the first step in the process. Then once that's approved, then we'll follow up with the further ordinance and resolution, as Mr. Allers noted, to complete the PERS transfer, then transfer the half interest in the land, which is presently owned, half Agoura Hills, half Calabasas, in full to Calabasas in return for the pension transfer, and then it'll be fully the Calabasas Community Center. And second, the Joint Powers Authorities Board is slated to consider this similar resolution tomorrow at their board meeting regarding the PERS plan transfer, the other side of the transfer from the Joint Powers Agency to the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any council questions or comments?
I'll just throw out one question if I can, just for clarity's sake. We have an approximate value of this transfer from our earlier research. Could you throw out that number for us?
There actually is no number for the merger cost. That's what we're waiting for on the actuarial report. There is a termination cost if the JPA would have just terminated their plan, and that was approximately $1.5 million. The merger should be less than that, but I can't really provide an estimate for that. All I can say is it'll be less than $1.5 million and more than $1.
And payable over the next 30 plus years, as opposed to $1.5 million due tomorrow.
Yes, exactly. The termination cost would have had to have been paid in full, writing a check to CalPERS for that to actually transpire.
Thank you. I think it's just important for the public to hear that, because we're moving forward with this. You know, we need to have a general idea of what we're doing here. And just to remind everybody that this is an exchange of assuming the PERS debt in exchange for the full interest of the now Calabasas Community Center. I think one of our most beautiful assets, so I'm certainly in favor of this.
Great, thank you. Any other comments? With that, is there a motion to adopt the City Council Resolution number 2024-1893 stating intent to pursue merger of the Agoura Hills Calabasas Community Center's contract with the California Public Employees Retirement System into the City of Calabasas contract with California Public Employees Retirement System with a merger date of June 30th, 2024, and also to authorize the city manager and/or his designee to execute and sign all PERS documents related to the merger, subject to final city council approval of the ordinance. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Our next item is, thank you, Ron. Our next item is authorize award of professional service agreement to Park Associates, DBA Park Planet, for the Juan Bautista de Anza Creekside and Highlands Park play structure replacement in the amount of $685,000. Erica Green will make our presentation.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council members, members of the public. I have Mr. Campbell here with me tonight. He's been working a lot with me with the capital improvement project, so we have him here to answer any questions with us. So we're here tonight to look at a playground replacement contract award. So I'll give a little background. So the playground replacement is part of the capital improvement program using the ARPA funding. So the last three projects we have to replace the playgrounds are Juan Bautista De Anza Park, Creekside Park, and Highlands Park. So at Juan De Anza, we have a $350,000 budget with a goal we aim to get that completed by October, so we have that completed before Pumpkin Festival. We are going to refurbish a 2 to 5-year-old play structure, 5 to 12-year-old swing set, and the PIP surface, which is the pour in place rubberized surfacing. The Creekside Park, we have $185,000, and we changed this completion date. We switched it with Highlands, so we are looking to get that completed by August. That play structure is a 2 to 12-year-old structure, and we have a grant from the Santa Monica Mountains Resource Conservation District Fire Prevention Grant for the rubberized surfacing there. And then Highlands Park is a $150,000 budget, and we're hoping to get that completed by September with a 2 to 12-year-old surface or playground structure and the engineered wood fibered surface. So the requests for proposals were posted on March 13th. Each vendor submitted up to 2 designs. They were due on March 28th with our $685,000 budget. We received 5 proposals from Game Time Great Western Recreation, Pacific Play Systems Incorporated, Play and Park Structures, Park Associates Inc., DBA Park Planet, and Miracle Playground. We took these proposals to the Parks, Recreation, and Education Commission meeting on April 8th for recommendation of the vendor and design to City Council. And the recommendation was Park Associates Inc., DBA Park Planet, option 2, with some slight modifications. So this is the existing structures at Juan Bautista De Anza Park. The top photo is the 5 to 12-year-old. The bottom left is the 2 to 5, and then the swing set. So the proposed play structure is a 5 to 12-year-old play structure. What we updated with recommendations from the pre was the inclusive panels, inclusive swings, and modified the colors a little bit to be a little more muted for that area. The 2 to 5-year-old structure, we updated the inclusive panels and standalone features and also updated the colors a bit. So here you can see we added some music and some theatrical panels to the 2 to 5-year-old. Highlands Park, here's the existing structure. It's a 2 to 5-year-old structure with some standalone play elements and engineered wood fiber surface. The proposed design, we updated some inclusive panels. There was some musical elements that we removed because of the residential area. And this is the original colors that they had chosen. Creekside Park, here's the existing play structure. It's a 2 to 12-year-old play structure. And then the grant funding will replace the pour-in-place surfacing. And here's the proposed design for the 2 to 12. So the budget included $630,000 from the American Rescue Plan Act funding and the $55,000 for the replacement of the pour-in-place surfacing at Creekside Park. The option 2 bid submittal came in at $613,034.05. With the recommendations of the pre, the updated cost was $628,527.48, which is about $56,472.52 below the budgeted costs. So that is it for my presentation. I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica and Jeff. Are there any questions from the council? Ed?
Thank you for the presentation, Erica. We're all excited to see this happen. It's like springtime for our parks. Once in a lifetime, we'll see this. But I do have some questions in no particular order. What's the life expectancy of the shade that covers most of the areas that I've seen on here?
The
Some of
shade?
them are very, very large. So when you factor in wind and sun over and over, and is there a warranty on any of them?
The structures and the shade sails have a 10 to 15 year lifetime. They would fade, but they are made to stand up to the wind and any of the elements. So it does have the same lifetime benefit as the 10 to 15 years as the play structure.
Is there a potential for any of them to rip by any chance?
That doesn't happen very often. We haven't run into that, but if we did, we would just have to get a replacement piece.
And then the age groups where, I hate to use Wild Walnut, but that's very many of the parks are similar. Are the age groups condensed where you have little kids and you have toddlers, or is it dispersed haphazardly?
It depends on the size and the logistics that we have for the play structures. So if they're smaller, we usually try to do a 2 to 12 so we can get some play elements for all the youth. If we have more room, we'll do separate play structures. So with Walnut in particular, the larger structure is for 5 to 12, and then we have some 2 to 5 year old elements.
Last, if you don't mind, could you bring up Creekside?
Sure.
So these, what I'm looking at, are two different structures or one from different angles?
It's one. They do connect. Yes.
Okay, is that in the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
Because there's enough space back there.
Yes.
But there's also a lot of other equipment back there. Are you going to keep that equipment?
No, this is going to replace that equipment. Right now, the structure isn't made for the little ones, so that's why they have their own equipment there, but this would replace that.
Okay, because that's a great little area for toddlers. So, and it's open on the weekends for those who want to know. They can take, that's another alternative location to take your grandchildren or your children. So
That's
thank you
correct.
very much.
You're welcome.
David?
Thank you. Thank you for this report and all the hard work, and thanks to the as well. Do you have any idea right now in mind construction timelines for the 3 parks?
Yes, so each of the parks is going to take about 4 weeks to construct, so we will be staggering the construction to limit the closures of the parks. I know we have a lot of construction going on at most of our parks, but we will have at least 4 playgrounds open throughout the summer so the youth can play throughout the summer.
Great. And the other question, and I'm sure we always keep in mind the schools when we're doing construction, but it was raised, so I will ask it publicly. Creekside construction will not take place while the clubhouse is during the times it's in session, correct?
It will. So they close for only 1 week during the summer, which we will start construction. They have a lower amount of students during the summer, so we thought that was the best time to do the construction. We will have fencing from the entrance around through the back. There will be no entry for the youth into the construction area. And we will work with the contractor and the school to make sure when we're doing certain larger things, it's less impactful to their instruction and camps.
Will there be any construction on the weekends? Because I know there is no school on the weekends, so that's why I'm asking.
Probably Saturdays. I don't think
Okay.
Sunday. Yeah.
And then also, since it's a limited parking lot, I assume we'll be also making sure there is enough parking for those who need to come in, drop off children and so forth, rather than larger construction vehicles only.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Peter or James, any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. All my questions have been asked.
Thank you.
Let's see. Okay, is there a motion to authorize the award of the professional services agreement to Park Associates for De Anza, Creekside, and Highlands Park play structure replacement in the amount of $685,000?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. And there were no members of the public or speaker cards. We're going to take a 5-minute break before our last item. Welcome back. We are going to continue our meeting with a discussion of fire safety and resilience code standards. Scott Trujillo, Michael Klein, and Sparky Cohen will be making the presentation. Turn it to Michael.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. I'm also joined here tonight by Luis Molina, who is our plan checker from M6, and he knows a ton about the building code, fire requirements, and of course, solar panel requirements as well. And as you mentioned, Sparky Cohen is here as well. He's our building official. So I'll go through the presentation, and then if there's very specific questions about the building code requirements and solar requirements, both of them are here. So just a quick background. At the request of the council, the Planning Commission reviewed various fire code requirements, both at the state level and also at the city level as it relates to building, as well as fire code requirements in terms of planting and fuel modification requirements around a property. That review happened back in June of 2023, and from there the Planning Commission made recommendations for the council to consider. That list, there were 6 recommendations that came forward to the council in September of 2023, and from that list, after the discussion, the council continued the meeting or continued the discussion and asked staff to return with additional information on 2 of those items. The first one was to consider a requirement that new construction provides backup power. Specifically, the council requested that staff come back with a cost comparison between the current California Building Code requirement for solar panels and then what that additional cost would look like to add battery backup. And then the other point that was asked to come back was to consider prohibiting combustible plant materials within 5 feet of structures. And specifically, the request was to provide additional information in terms of what state and county requirements are for plant materials within 5 feet of structures. So jumping right into it, the first item that I'll cover is with regards to the battery backup. As was discussed at the previous meeting, the California Building Code already has requirements for solar panels for all new structures. This includes both single-family, multifamily, and non-residential. It does not necessarily require battery backup for all of these structures. However, for single-family and multifamily, those new structures, for single-family homes and multifamily structures under 3 stories or under, they are required to be battery ready. So at least the infrastructure is already installed so that if they want to easily add a battery backup later on down the road, they can do that. They're not required to provide an actual battery backup. Multifamily 4 stories and above and new non-residential structures are required to provide both solar panel and also a battery backup. So that's already handled within the building code. So from there, what we did is we looked at specifically single-family residents because a potential ordinance would have the greatest impact on those property owners. The other reason why we did not actually take a look at the multifamily 3-story and less is because to spec out a solar panel project and also battery backup for a project like that is very unique, and it's a much different calculus than taking a look at single-family homes, which you can generally go to a lot of a local provider like Tesla, for example, and run a quick cost on how much it would be to install solar panels, as well as provide that battery backup. So what we looked at was the cost to install solar panels for a 2,000 square foot home and a 3,800 square foot home. These represent sort of the 2 general size homes that we typically see permitted in the city. Of course, there are plenty of homes that are much larger than that, but we landed on 3,800 square feet as a safe estimate. And a 2,000 square foot home is pretty much in line with what you see in neighborhoods like the Calabasas Highlands. What we have outlined here is what that cost looks like specifically for just the code required solar panel. And one thing to note is that the California Building Code requirement does not require that the solar panels offset all of the energy usage. There's a minimum requirement, and it's not a very high threshold. So they do have to provide solar panels, but it's not as if they have to provide enough solar panels to cover 100% of their expected energy usage. And that's what's important to understand moving forward from there, because the difference to be able to provide the California Building Code requirement and then additional battery backup can really change based on what that goal is. So we looked at two different options. The first option, which was discussed last time, was if you took that 2,000 square foot home, for example, the California Building Code requirement solar panel alone would cost roughly $7,500. And again, in that situation, the home would be battery backup ready. It just wouldn't necessarily have the battery backup installed. If you were to add one battery backup, one solar battery backup, and this, I think in this case, we looked at Tesla because they're very common and one of the more widely spread used product. One single battery backup is roughly $14,000. What that would provide for a 2,000 square foot house is about 50% backup. So as I mentioned at the last meeting, that will not provide enough power to run all your high-end electrical appliances, air conditioning, HVAC, et cetera. It would run your 110 volts, so it would keep your fridge on and some outlets and some lights. So the one battery backup would provide that amount of backup for about 8 hours for a 2,000 square foot house. So the difference there is $7,500 versus about $22,000, so about a $14,000 difference. For a 3,800 square foot house, in order to do that 50% backup, you'd have to install at least 2 power walls, Tesla power walls, so that would increase from a difference of $14,000 to about $28,800. So again, going back at the California Building Code requirement, just for solar panels on a 3,800 square foot house, if you add in the battery backup for 50%, you're looking at almost $40,000, so around a $28,000 to $29,000 cost difference. The really big cost difference comes into play if you want to provide full 100% backup. And that would allow for the structure to be fully operated, running your HVAC, running all of your basically running the house as you would normally run it. What we looked at was what would it cost to do that at about 18 hours, so to be able to run your house for an extended period of time, not just a couple hours, but for an extended period of time. And the cost to do that is quite a bit more. It's rather significant. The main reason is because in order to provide that additional 100% offset, you have to not only add a lot more battery backup, but you also have to add a lot more solar panels. The one caveat to this issue as well is what we did not look at is whether or not there's enough roof space in each of these scenarios to add that amount of solar panels to then provide that amount of backup. So that may actually even require adding additional structures on the property, like a patio cover with solar panels. The cost difference there, again, if on a 2,000 square foot house, under the California Building Code is about $7,500, and to provide that 100% backup, that cost is almost $150,000. So you're looking at $141,000 cost difference from the building code requirement to providing a full power backup. On a 3,800 square foot house, it goes from a $10,800 installation to about a $180,000 installation, so roughly $170,000 difference. This is a simplified table. I have more details in the staff report.
One thing we didn't think to add was the additional cost it would probably take to increase the size of the garages. Whether, because when you have batteries in a garage, it's really dangerous, and you need more room for the vehicle, and then you need protection posts, additional space for the equipment. That could be significant as well.
If you want me to pause here, if you have any questions about the solar component, I'm happy to do that, unless you want me to move on to the next issue, which was the landscape. Okay.
And then we can comment.
So the other point that we looked at, or the other recommendation that we took a look at, is the landscape requirements, and specifically landscape within 5 feet of a residential structure. And the request was to also provide additional information on various state laws that have changed. So just to recap, the entire city of Calabasas is located within the very high fire hazard severity zone. That is established by the state fire marshal. It's not established by the city, it's established by the state fire marshal. What that does is it triggers not only the more robust building requirements for new structures or significant modifications to existing structures, but it also requires or triggers additional defensible space and fuel modification requirements. So here are 2 bills that were introduced within the past several years that relate to this particular zone. AB 38 requires all sellers to disclose the fact that they're in the high fire severity zone, and also what the fuel modification requirements are and what they've done to meet those requirements. AB 3074 basically took what was previously the fuel modification and turned it into a very robust residential defensible space requirement. One of the major things that the new residential defensible space added is this, what they call a zone 0. And I'll get into that in a second. And then in addition to that, AB 3074 identified our local fire station or local fire jurisdiction, in this case LA County Fire Department, as the enforcement agency of defensible space. And in order to help the local fire, the fire department deal with the costs of that and the inspections that go along with defensible space, the LA County Board of Supervisors passed an inspection fee that gets added to the property tax bill. So the inspection that goes along with the enforcement is covered via that fee. That's not something that of course, the city of Calabasas has access to. So taking a look at the new defensible space requirements, this table over here identifies the different zone and then the guidelines, and you'll see that in what they now call zone 0, which is the zone 0 is from 0 to 5 feet of the structure, and under the new rules, no plant material is allowed. It has to be completely non-combustible. No, they call it ember, it has to be completely ember resistant. They don't even want mulch or wood chips or anything like that. They pretty much want dirt, concrete, rocks, and that's pretty much it. They don't want to see patio furniture, they don't want to see planters, et cetera. So it has to be completely non-combustible within that 0 to 5 feet. Moving from there, you go into zone 1. That's from 0 to 30 feet, and that does allow for small plants and limited woody plants, and maybe some small shade trees, which are shown in this exhibit. And then zone 2 is from 5 to 30 feet, and that just starts to ramp up in terms of allowing a little bit more vegetation. The big key here that they point out is to avoid any horizontal or vertical fuel ladders, so stacking too many trees close together that can ignite or send ignition in one direction is what they're talking about. And then finally, beyond that 100-foot mark could potentially be a zone 3 that's established by the fire department. So with that, and after staff took a closer look at what both the building code requires for solar panels and the battery backup, and then that cost difference, as well as then looking at the new defensible space requirements and the enforcement by LA County, staff recommends at this point in time that no additional changes to these should be made by the city, primarily because with regards to the solar panel and battery backup, it is a significant cost to add that. There's nothing that prevents a homeowner from choosing to add a battery backup, but in this particular case, staff believes that it's a significant cost to mandate it. And 2, The recently updated state requirements for defensible space is very robust, and the enforcement agency for that is LA County Fire Department, who also has their own source of funding to be able to enforce that. And with that, that concludes this presentation, and we are here for questions.
Thank you, Michael. Do any of my colleagues have questions?
I support the recommendation. I did have one comment on your map. Please remember that we need to update our maps. Mount Calabasas, our latest annexation, was left off the map.
I'm aware of that. That unfortunately is not our map, it is the state's map.
Okay, well, if the state is doing that, they should be informed that we now have that territory because it's almost a square mile.
We'll reach out to them and let them know.
And they're expected to release relatively new, updated fire hazard severity zone maps this year, next year, so we'll make sure that that gets updated.
Because that's 13 years old now.
Yeah, they get to it when they get to it.
Our current zone was established more than 13 years ago, so this may have just been from that old mapping.
Okay, but as far as a recommendation, I'm comfortable with it.
Peter?
I would also agree with the recommendation, and I'd like to add a point to that, in that building codes are changed every 3 years. The state has numerous committees that look at these on a regular basis. They're already reviewing the next code changes by the time we pass the current code. And we don't have the staff and the resources to do that continually every 3 years. Similarly, this very high fire hazard severity zone, Zone 0 changed since we actually asked our staff to look into this. I would hesitate for the city to take on legislation or making rules here in our city if we can't keep up with the inevitable changes that will follow. And I think both of these fall squarely into that category. I'd be against making these recommendations.
Thank you. Any comments down here?
I agree with the comments that have been made so far. It's work in progress. Things are changing very rapidly. I think one of the things that I'm surprised about is the enforcement. So as I walk my dog in the neighborhood, I drive through Calabasas, I see trees right next to homes. I don't see anybody making any significant effort. So I'm not sure when that enforcement will take place, but it's a mindset. Ultimately, we're going to have to convince our community to be aware of it. No one likes to get a ticket or a summons. I know the first one's a warning, but I haven't even seen any warnings come out. I like the staff's recommendation, and I would support that recommendation.
And just before David, point of clarification, Zone 0 is not being enforced right now. There's like, they're waiting on stuff from the county and the state before LA County Fire does everything. It's our current clearance standards, but we're not at Zone 0 yet.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, so that's why you're not seeing anything. It's Zone 0 is not being enforced yet.
Thank God.
Okay. David?
Thank you, and I join my colleagues in supporting this as well, the staff's recommendation. The main reason, as far as the battery backup being too expensive to mandate in our city, at least from my point of view, I think individuals can go ahead and do that as they see fit, whether it's solar or some other form. We have Epic here who probably could come up with a new plan for us if we wanted. And the county's enforcement of the brush clearance is also something that doesn't cost our residents other than the taxes they pay the county. If we were to, for some reason, have a vote to increase or decrease the zone and require more inspection and more staff time, wouldn't that be borne by our staff? It wouldn't be borne by the county, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. So I'm fully supportive of staff's recommendation. We live in a fire zone. It's great we're looking at these things, and thank you for the excellent, thorough report.
And I support staff's recommendation, and this was a very good staff report, by the way, so thanks to everyone who put it together. So now we will move on to informational items. Are there any questions regarding the check register for the period of March 30th? Actually, there's a typo there, so I'm not sure what the check register is for.
typo.
Madam Mayor,
I'm sorry.
I believe that is correctly reflects what's in the agenda packet is the register.
Okay.
The reporting period is March
For the
30th
dates.
through